Robert Sullivan had been cleaning the executive floors of Morrison Industries for 12 years. At 48, he knew every corner of the gleaming corporate tower, every routine that kept the building running smoothly. His dark hair was beginning to show threads of silver, and the lines around his eyes spoke of early mornings and late nights spent providing for his 14-year-old son, Marcus. The Navy work shirt he wore each day was always pressed and clean. Robert took pride in his appearance, even if most people looked right through him as he emptied wastebaskets and polished conference tables. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Robert was quietly mopping the marble floors outside the executive offices when he heard raised voices from the corner suite. Through the glass walls, he could see Victoria Sterling, the company's CEO, pacing behind her desk. Her crisp white blouse and black pencil skirt were as sharp as her reputation, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun that matched her no-nonsense demeanor. Robert had seen her from a distance countless times, but they'd never spoken. She was known throughout the building as brilliant but demanding, the kind of executive who worked 18-hour days and expected the same dedication from everyone around her. As Robert continued his work, he noticed Victoria's coffee cup had fallen from her desk, spilling dark liquid across important-looking documents. Without thinking, he gently knocked on her open door. "Excuse me, ma'am. I noticed you had a spill. I can clean that up for you." Victoria looked up from her phone call with obvious irritation. She held up a finger, finishing her conversation before hanging up with barely controlled frustration. "This is not a good time," she said sharply. "I'm dealing with a crisis here, and I don't need interruptions." Robert stepped back slightly. "I understand, ma'am. I just thought—" "You thought what?" Victoria's voice rose, the stress of whatever crisis she was managing spilling over. "You thought you could just walk into my office during the most important call of my career? Do you have any idea what's at stake here?" Robert's face flushed, but he remained calm. "I'm sorry. I was only trying to help." "Help?" Victoria's laugh was bitter. "The help I need isn't something a janitor can provide. I need competence. I need people who understand boundaries and professionalism." The words hung in the air like a slap. Robert felt something shift inside his chest, a familiar ache he recognized from years of being overlooked and undervalued. "I'll just clean this up and go," he said quietly, reaching for his supplies. "No." Victoria's voice was cold now, final. "You know what? I'm tired of this building falling apart while staff wander around thinking they can interrupt executive business. Security will escort you out. You're terminated, effective immediately." Robert stopped moving. In 12 years, he had never been written up, never been late, never caused a moment's trouble. "Ma'am, I have a son. I need this job." "You should have thought of that before barging into my office." Victoria was already reaching for her phone. "Security? I need someone on the 40th floor." Robert gathered his supplies with quiet dignity. As security arrived, he looked back at Victoria one more time. "I hope your crisis works out, ma'am. I truly do." The words were spoken without sarcasm or anger, just a gentle sincerity that gave Victoria pause, but only for a moment. She turned back to her documents as Robert was led away. 3 weeks later, Victoria's world fell apart. The company's largest client had pulled their contract after discovering financial irregularities in their account. The FBI had frozen Morrison Industries' assets pending investigation. Overnight, Victoria went from CEO of a thriving corporation to the target of a federal inquiry. The board moved swiftly. Victoria was suspended, her accounts frozen, her corporate credit cards canceled. The penthouse apartment that came with the job was no longer available. The company car was repossessed. In a matter of days, she found herself with nothing but a small savings account and a crushing legal bill. Unable to afford her usual hotel, Victoria found herself in a modest inn on the outskirts of the city. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was now staying in the same neighborhood where many of her former employees lived. It was there, 3 months into her nightmare, that she saw him. Robert was coming out of a small grocery store with his son, a lanky teenager with his father's, kind eyes and easy smile. They were laughing about something, their bond evident in the comfortable way they walked together. Victoria almost didn't approach them. What could she possibly say? But something, desperation, perhaps, or the memory of his gentle words that, last day, made her step forward. "Robert?" He turned, and she watched recognition dawn in his eyes, followed by something she hadn't expected, concern. "Mrs. Sterling, I heard about what happened. I'm sorry." Victoria felt tears threaten. When was the last time someone had expressed genuine sympathy for her situation? "Thank you. That means more than you know." Marcus looked between them. Curiously, Robert made the introductions, his natural courtesy intact despite everything. "This is my son, Marcus. Marcus, this is Mrs. Sterling. She used to run the company where I worked." Victoria shook the teenager's hand, struck by his firm grip and direct gaze. "Nice to meet you, Marcus. Dad talks about you sometimes," Marcus said with the honesty of youth. "He said you were going through a hard time, but that everyone deserves compassion." Victoria's breath caught. After she had humiliated and fired him, Robert had spoken of her with kindness to his son. "Robert," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I owe you an apology. The way I treated you that day, there's no excuse for it. You were trying to help and I was cruel." Robert was quiet for a moment. "We all have bad days, ma'am. I figured you were under pressure I couldn't understand." "That's no excuse for taking it out on you." Victoria struggled with words that felt inadequate. "I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, most of my friends. The lawyers say the investigation could take years. I don't even know how I'm going to pay rent next month." She hadn't meant to reveal so much, but something about Robert's steady presence made the words spill out. "Are you looking for work?" Robert asked simply. Victoria almost laughed. "Who would hire me now? I'm radioactive. No company will touch me." "The community center where I volunteer is looking for someone to help with their financial planning program," Robert said thoughtfully. "It doesn't pay much, but it's honest work. Helping families manage budgets, plan for emergencies, the kind of thing you'd be good at." Victoria stared at him. "You would recommend me, after what I did to you?" "Everyone deserves a second chance," Robert said. "Besides, those families need someone with real business experience, someone who understands what it's like to lose everything and have to start over." Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "Dad always says the best teachers are the ones who've been through the struggles themselves." That evening, Victoria found herself in the community center's modest office, speaking with the director about the financial literacy program. The pay was barely enough to cover her basic expenses, but for the first time in months, she felt useful. Working with families who were struggling to make ends meet, Victoria discovered skills she hadn't known she possessed. Not the ruthless efficiency that had made her a successful CEO, but patience, empathy, the ability to listen without judgment. She learned about Maria, the single mother working 2 jobs to keep her kids in school. About James, the laid-off factory worker trying to stretch unemployment benefits. About elderly couples choosing between medication and groceries. These were the people whose lives had been numbers on her spreadsheets, whose jobs she had eliminated to improve quarterly profits. Now they had names, faces, stories that mattered. Robert often stopped by the center after his new job at the Postal Service. He had found work quickly. His references spoke of 12 years of reliability and quiet competence. Victoria noticed that people lit up when they saw him, that children ran to show him their drawings, that elderly clients saved their stories for his visits. "How do you do it?" Victoria asked him one evening as they locked up the center together. "How do you care so much about everyone?" Robert considered the question as they walked to the bus stop. My late wife used to say that we're all just walking each other home. Some of us are further along the path, some are just starting out, but we're all heading to the same place. Might as well help each other along the way. Your wife sounds like she was a remarkable woman. She was. Cancer took her when Marcus was 8. Those first few years after, I don't know how we would have made it without people like you're becoming now. People who saw us as more than just problems to be solved. 6 months later, the FBI investigation concluded. Victoria was cleared of all charges. The irregularities had been the work of a subordinate who had since confessed. She was offered her old position back, along with several other lucrative opportunities. She turned them all down. Instead, Victoria used her restored reputation and remaining savings to establish a non-profit organization focused on financial literacy and support. For working families, Robert became her first official hire as program director, with a salary that finally reflected his worth. The day they signed the lease on their new offices, Victoria found Robert setting up desks with the same quiet care he had once brought to cleaning those executive floors. "Any regrets?" she asked. Robert smiled, the same gentle smile he had given her in that grocery store parking lot. "Just one. I wish it hadn't taken losing everything for both of us to find what really mattered." Victoria nodded, understanding. "But we found it eventually. And maybe that's what second chances are really for. Not to go back to who we were, but to become who we were always meant to be." Outside their windows, the city hummed with the lives of millions of people, each carrying their own struggles and dreams. And in their small office, two people who had found their way back to grace, prepared to help others do the same. Sometimes, our greatest failures become the foundation for our most meaningful successes. And sometimes, the person we hurt the most becomes the very one who shows us the way home. True leadership isn't about the power to tear others down, but the wisdom to lift each other up, especially when we ourselves are struggling to stand.